Mr. Phillips, and today I'll be looking at homeostasis and thermoregulation, which is temperature control in warm-blooded animals. So you hopefully should know that the temperature range of humans is a narrow acceptable range, approximately 37 degrees, which is slightly different for different people. But if the body temperature goes too high, it could lead to enzymes being denaturing, and if it drops too low, it would affect our enzymes. So you need to be able to link it to this graph here, which you should know from earlier on in the course. So why is it important? Because enzyme activity is controlled by temperature. As the temperature increases from 0 to 40 degrees, you can see an increase here of the rate of reactions in our body. As a substrate, enzymes therefore collide more often because they have more kinetic energy, making more enzyme substrate complexes. And when you get to this top level here, which is called the optimum temperature, which you should always read off the graph. So if you look at this one, it's slightly above 40 according to this graph, but in humans it's about 37 degrees. This means that you make as many enzyme substrate complexes as possible. Above this temperature, the enzyme is denatured, and very quickly the rate of reaction falls down. And this is because the active site changes shape due to changes in bonding, and the enzyme active site is no longer complementary to the substrate. So you're unable to make any further enzyme substrate complexes. And this means the reaction will stop permanently. So you should be able to read a graph like this and interpret it. So there are two main groups of organisms: ectotherms, which are cold-blooded organisms, and endotherms, like mammals, which are warm-blooded. And you see here, as the temperature of the environment goes up, the temperature of ectotherms' bodies go up, so they are reliant on the temperature of the environment. Whereas mammals can live in more places around the world because their temperature is largely controlled internally by their own body, and therefore they are independent of the external environment within an acceptable range. And this is part of homeostasis, which is the maintenance of a constant internal environment that is independent of the external environment. So here you can see as the temperature goes up and down largely outside, inside a warm-blooded animal, the temperature only fluctuates slightly. So the internal environment doesn't stay the same, it is fluctuating around a constantly acceptable range in what we call a constant dynamic equilibrium. Now this is controlled by something called negative feedback, and this is a mechanism which restores the body's levels in our bodies after a change. So we're going to be looking at temperature change. When your temperature goes too high, your sensory organs detect it. We'll talk about the hypothalamus in a few minutes. That releases sweat, which lowers the temperature back down. So negative feedback is a good thing. It reverses a change in our body, takes the conditions back towards that optimum acceptable level. And here's a graph just to show you the difference. So negative feedback here, if the temperature goes higher, it gets lowered back down to its original point. Positive feedback would be a bad thing because it would continue to increase the temperature or decrease the temperature, which we do not want if it's too high or too low already. So you need to be able to describe the basic process of the thermoregulation in the body. So we start here. If your body gets too cold, heat sensors in the brain and the skin, which we'll talk about in more detail shortly, detect this. They send messages to your muscles, which cause your muscles to shiver, which warms the body up. So again, negative feedback. If your body gets too hot, it causes messages to the sweat glands, releasing sweat from the sweat glands, causing your body to cool. And again, that is negative feedback. So how is it detected and how does it respond? Well, effectively, your body is controlled by something called the thermoregulatory center in the hypothalamus of the brain. And this records two temperatures. It has receptors that are in the brain and monitors the blood flowing through the carotid artery. And it also uses peripheral sense organs and measures the temperature in the skin using peripheral receptors. They will send impulses to the thermoregulatory center, giving information about the skin temperature as an early warning system, because obviously your blood, if it starts to dip, it can be quite dangerous. So then what will happen? Well, one way we can increase our temperature is generating heat through metabolism. So the metabolic rate can be altered to raise or decrease temperature. So how is this done? Well, to raise the metabolic rate, the hypothalamus releases something called thyrotropin releasing hormone. This passes to the pituitary gland. Remember, they are connected via a stalk, a small stalk, and that then releases, secretes the gland called thyroid stimulating hormone. That generates then the release of thyroxine from the thyroid gland, and then the thyroxine will go around your body, increasing the metabolic rate of the cells. All cells respond, but most metabolically active are the liver, brain, and muscle cells. So what happens then is it affects effectors. And as I said, muscle cells are effectors. They'll generate heat. They'll cause you to shiver. And adipose tissue, which is fat tissues, is an insulator, and this reduces heat loss as a result. Brown adipose tissues, though, have mitochondria in it, and they can generate heat at a rapid rate. So you can basically keep yourself warmed up. Small mammals need this particularly because they lose heat rapidly due to a large surface area to volume ratio. So you need to be able to describe the different mechanisms, which you can see here, to respond to cold to warm the body up. So the first one here is vasoconstriction. And vasoconstriction is when the capillaries, or the arterioles, we should say, near the surface of the skin have a reduced blood flow flowing through them. And that is because circular muscles here will constrict, reducing the blood flow, meaning less heat is lost through evaporation. In fact, your skin surface can be colder than the actual outdoor temperature, reducing the gradient of heat and less heat loss. Shivering can be used, so the sudden movement, the autonomic, non-voluntary movement of shivering causes muscles, it's causing rapid muscle contraction, which generates heat due to the friction in muscles. And then you have the hairs on your arm. If it's cold, they will stand up. That will cause a layer of trapped air within under the surface of the skin, which causes less heat to be lost. And then there is something called non-coupled respiration of brown adipose tissues. So brown adipose tissues is fat cells that have a high amount of mitochondria. And these will carry out respiration. They'll oxidize the fat in the fat cells and carry out respiration. But instead of using respiration to produce ATP, the respiration will be used to create heat directly, which causes a high amount of heat, causing your body to warm up significantly. When it's too hot, the opposite happens to your blood vessels. So your circular muscles relax, allowing more blood to go into the arterioles by the skin surface, meaning more heat loss occurs through your epidermis via radiation. The hairs on the arm will lie down, meaning there's no layer of trapped air, and sweat is released from sweat glands onto your surface of your skin, and the sweat then uses the heat and the energy in your body to evaporate due to the high latent heat of water, and that then cools your body down as a result in negative feedback.